Welcome to the deep dive, where we crack open the most fascinating subjects and really give you the essential insights you need to understand them. No jargon, just clarity. So today, we're taking a deep plunge into something pretty fundamental, something happening inside you every single second, how your body regulates its temperature. It's this like invisible, constant balancing act. And our mission for this deep dive is to unpack the tricky concepts from Medical Physiology by Boron and Boulpaep. We're going to try and distill this, well, pretty detailed stuff, make it clear, make it clinically relevant, whether you're a college student maybe prepping for that big physiology exam or a medical student looking to, solidify that foundation. The goal is for you to walk away feeling confident, like you've really got a handle on this.
Yeah, exactly. And right at the core of all this is this huge evolutionary advantage we call homeothermy. Now, picture a cold-blooded creature, maybe a lizard, right? Biologists call them poikilotherms. Their activity level, it's totally tied to the outside temperature.
Right. Sluggish when it's cold, active when it's hot.
Precisely. Chilly morning, that lizard's barely moving. Hot afternoon, it's full of energy. But for us, for homeotherms humans, or think about a prairie dog in the desert, an Arctic fox in the snow, we keep our internal activity stable, pretty much regardless of the environment. That independence, keeping our internal climate steady, it's absolutely key to our complex physiology, our survival, really.
Okay, that sounds amazing, like a biological superpower. But why? Why is it so critical? Why can't we just, fluctuate like the lizard?
That's a great question. Gets right to the heart of it. It's because almost every single physiological function, everything is incredibly sensitive to temperature. Think about enzymes driving reactions, nerve signals firing, muscles contracting. They all have this optimal, really narrow temperature range where they work best. Keeping things in that sweet spot means high efficiency, sure, but crucially, it stops the really bad stuff, the pathological consequences if you get way too hot or way too cold.
Okay, so it's vital. How does the body actually do this balancing act? It can't be simple.
No, definitely not simple. It's a really sophisticated system, like an internal climate control. It uses both anticipatory controls, kind of seeing trouble coming, and negative feedback loops to constantly adjust. Your body doesn't just react. It can actually prepare and is always fine-tuning to hit that precise set point. And there are 5 key parts working together, like a well-rehearsed team. First, you've got thermal sensors. Tiny thermometers all over, not just on your skin, but deep inside your body too, even in the brain.
Wow, okay. Deep sensors too.
Yeah. Second, the afferent pathways. These are the nerve highways, sending all that temperature data up to the brain. Third is the integration system in the CNS, mainly the hypothalamus. That's the body's master thermostat, the command center processing everything.
A hypothalamus, right. Got it.
Fourth, the efferent pathways. Nerves carrying commands from the brain out to the body. And fifth, the target organs or effectors. These are the parts that actually do something. Skeletal muscles shivering, skin blood vessels changing flow, sweat glands sweating. They execute the commands.
So when we talk about normal temperature, everyone says 37 Celsius, 98.6 Fahrenheit. But you're saying it's not quite that fixed.
Exactly. Normal is more of a range, actually. Healthy, active people can be anywhere from about 36 degrees C to 37.5 degrees C. Clinically, rectal temperature is often seen as most reliable, less affected by outside air. But, for convenience, under the tongue or in the ear works fine for most situations.
And does it change during the day or, other times?
Oh, absolutely. It's not static at all. There's a clear circadian rhythm. Your temperature naturally fluctuates by about 1 degree Celsius over 24 hours, usually lowest early morning, say 3 to 6 a.m., and then peaks late afternoon, maybe 3 to 6 p.m. And that's built in, not just about being asleep or awake.
Interesting.
And for women, there's the menstrual cycle. Temperature typically bumps up about half a degree Celsius after ovulation. It's consistent enough that it can be used for fertility awareness and obviously physical activity. Exercise generates a lot of heat, pushes your core temp up, and forces those heat loss mechanisms to kick in.
Makes sense.
And finally, age is a big factor. Infants and older adults, they just aren't as good at keeping their temperature stable. Babies, for example, they don't shiver effectively and they lose heat faster because they have a high surface area compared to their mass. With the elderly, you often see reduced sensing, maybe lower metabolism, less cardiovascular reserve, even sweat glands not working as well, all things that make regulation harder.
Right. So our bodies are these complex regulators, but they're also like little furnaces, always making heat. Where's that coming from?
It really boils down to your metabolic rate, basically how fast your body is using oxygen. Pretty much all the energy from food that isn't used for work or stored, well, it ends up as heat. Even when you're just sitting there, your resting metabolic rate, or RMR, keeps things ticking, essential stuff like active transport, heart beating, breathing. An average adult at rest generates around 72 kilocalories an hour. That's about the heat from an 85-watt light bulb.
Huh, I never thought of it like that. An 85-watt bulb just sitting here.
Yeah. But then, any activity, voluntary or involuntary, ramps that up significantly. Even just digesting food adds heat. And then there's shivering. That's the body's emergency response to cold. It's involuntary muscle contractions, and it can boost total heat production by, like, 400%. For short periods, it can triple or even quadruple your metabolic rate. It's a serious heat-generating mechanism.
Wow, 400%.
But here's where it gets really impressive. Physical exercise. An endurance athlete, someone really pushing it, can generate maybe 1,000 kilocalories an hour for a while. That's like having a 1,200-watt space heater inside you. If you couldn't get rid of that heat fast, your core temp would shoot up by a degree Celsius every, say, 8 to 10 minutes. That leads straight to impairment, heat stroke. It just highlights how absolutely critical heat loss is.
That's a really powerful way to put it, a space heater inside you. Okay, so if we're constantly making this heat, especially during exercise, how does the body balance that? How does it get rid of the heat?
It's all about the whole body heat balance. The basic idea is heat production from metabolism, minus any physical work done, has to equal heat loss through various means, plus or minus any heat storage. And this transfer happens in two main stages. First stage, from your core to your skin. Most heat starts deep inside active muscles, heart, liver, brain, but has to get at the surface to escape, the main way it travels. Convection by your blood. Your blood acts like a coolant fluid, circulating heat from the core out to the skin. Direct conduction through tissues is pretty minor, and your body controls this brilliantly by adjusting skin blood flow. Need to lose heat. Vasodilation, blood vessels widen. More warm blood flows to the skin. Need to conserve heat. Vasoconstriction, vessels narrow, keeping warm blood deeper inside. It's a crucial defense.
Okay, so blood flow is key for getting heat to the surface. Then what? How does it leave the skin?
Right, stage 2. From your skin to the environment. 3 main ways this happens. First, radiation. Heat moving as infrared waves between your skin and other objects around you. At rest, in a normal room, this accounts for maybe 60% of your heat loss. You feel it from the sun or a fire. Or that sudden chill walking past a cold window at night. That's often you radiating heat to the cold glass.
Ah, okay. Radiation. What else?
Second, convection. That's heat transfer by fluid movement, usually air or water across your skin. You have natural convection, warm air rising off you, cooler air replacing it, and forced convection, wind or a fan blowing that warm layer away much faster. That's the whole idea behind wind chill factor, right? It makes you feel colder. And this is dramatically more powerful in water. Water conducts heat so much better, maybe 100 times better than air. It pulls heat away incredibly fast. It's a grim example, but think about the Titanic. Most deaths weren't from drowning, but from hypothermia, because the icy water just stripped heat from their bodies so rapidly.
Wow, that really puts the power of convection in perspective. Okay, so radiation, convection. What's the third?
The third is evaporation. This is heat loss, when liquid sweat on your skin turns into water vapor. Unlike the others, this doesn't depend on the temperature difference, but on the water vapor pressure difference between your skin and the air. Evaporating just 1 gram of water pulls away about 0.58 kilocalories of heat. And your body can sweat a lot, maybe up to 1.8 liters an hour during intense exercise. Theoretically, that's enough evaporation to get rid of around 1,000 kilocalories per hour, almost all the heat from really heavy exercise, if conditions are right.
If conditions are right, what does that mean?
Well, that brings us to the temperature-humidity index, or the heat index. If the air is already full of water vapor, high humidity, then the vapor pressure gradient between your skin and the air is small. Sweat still forms, but it doesn't evaporate easily, it just drips off, mostly. So evaporation becomes much less effective at cooling you. That's why humid heat feels so much worse. But in a dry desert, evaporation works like a charm, even if the air temp is higher than your skin temp, because the vapor pressure gradient is huge.
Got it. So it's this constant juggling act production versus radiation, convection, evaporation that keeps us stable.
Right.
But what happens when that balance gets, totally thrown off? When the system just can't keep up?
Right. When heat gain just overwhelms heat loss, your core temperature starts to climb. This can happen from inside, like that massive heat production during intense exercise, or from outside, like being in a sauna or out in the hot sun for too long. Let's take exercise hyperthermia. When you start exercising hard, heat production instantly jumps. right? Initially, it outpaces heat loss, so your core temp has to rise a bit. That rise acts as the signal to ramp up heat dissipation, more blood flow to the skin, more sweating. Eventually, you reach a new, higher steady-state temperature where heat production and heat loss are back in balance for as long as you keep exercising at that intensity.
Hmm.
But the key is, this isn't the body trying to be hotter, it's just the consequence of that initial lag before the cooling systems fully catch up.
Okay, that's a crucial distinction. It's a consequence, not a goal. So how is that different from getting a fever? They both involve higher temperature, but they feel different, right?
Yeah.
And what are the real dangers when temps get extreme?
Exactly. That difference is vital, especially clinically. Let's talk about when things go wrong first. Excessive hyperthermia. This often happens with prolonged exposure to heat and high humidity, especially if you're active. If it's hot outside, radiation and convection might not work to cool you. They might even add heat. Then, if it's humid too, evaporation gets crippled. You lose your main cooling method.
So you're trapped, essentially.
Pretty much. This can lead to heat exhaustion. Core temp gets up to maybe 39 degrees C, often involves dehydration. Less fluid means less sweat. And hypovolemia, lower blood volume, means less blood flow to the skin to release heat. Common in athletes, you hear about it a lot. But heat stroke is way more serious. Core temp hits 41 degrees C or higher. Here, the thermoregulatory system itself starts to fail. It's not just overwhelmed, it's breaking down. And the effects are devastating, system-wide. Confusion, unconsciousness, DIC, that's a clotting problem, rhabdomyolysis, muscle breakdown, heart muscle damage, liver failure, kidney failure, serious brain damage. It's a true medical emergency.
That sounds absolutely terrifying. What about the other extreme, getting too cold?
Excessive hypothermia. The most common cause, as we mentioned, is cold water immersion, because water steals heat so effectively. Your body fights back with vasoconstriction, clamping down blood flow to the skin and shivering. But in really cold water, or with prolonged exposure even in cold air, those defenses might not be enough. Insulation becomes critical then. Body fat helps. Sure, think whale blubber like Melville wrote about. But for us, usually it's clothing. Layers trap air, and air is a great insulator, slowing down that heat loss.
Okay, so let's circle back to fever. You said it's different. How is it fundamentally different from just overheating?
This is the absolute key takeaway. Fever is not the same as exercise hyperthermia or heat stroke. Fever is a regulated rise in core temperature. What that means is your body's internal thermostat, the set point in the hypothalamus, has actually been turned up. It happens because of pyrogens. These are substances, often cytokines like IL-1, IL-6, TNSA, released by your immune cells when they detect infection or inflammation. These pyrogens signal the brain, specifically triggering prostaglandin E2 release near the hypothalamus.
So the immune system tells the brain to raise the temperature target.
Essentially, yes. The hypothalamus now thinks the normal 37 degrees C is too low. It wants the body to be hotter. So what does the body do? It activates heat gain mechanisms.
Yeah.
You start shivering, your blood vessels constrict to conserve heat, all trying to raise your temperature up to meet that new, higher set point.
That explains why you feel cold and shiver when you're getting a fever, even though your temperature is going up.
Precisely. You feel cold because your current temperature is below the new target your brain has set. You want blankets, you shiver. Contrast that with exercise hyperthermia. You feel hot, you want to take layers off, splash water on yourself, because your temperature is above the unchanged normal set point. Your body is trying to cool down. It's a completely different physiological state, even though both involve elevated temperature. And there's even debate about the purpose of fever, or one idea is that the higher temperature actually helps the immune system work better, maybe helps lymphocytes multiply faster, for instance.
That distinction is crystal clear now. Wow. So we've really covered a lot, from the basic need for stable temperature to the complex sensors, pathways, effectors, and then how heat is made, how it moves via radiation, convection, evaporation, and what happens critically when that balance fails or when the body intentionally resets the balance, like in a fever. It's an amazing system.
It really is. And understanding these principles, it's not just about passing exams, right? It's fundamental to clinical practice. Diagnosing heat stroke versus fever, understanding why certain conditions make people vulnerable to heat or cold, appreciating how interconnected everything is. Circulation, metabolism, nervous system, immune system. It all ties together in thermoregulation.
Absolutely. Well, you've just taken a deep dive into the truly fascinating world of thermoregulation. Remember, you are part of the Deep Dive family, and you are totally capable of mastering this stuff. Keep exploring, keep asking questions, and keep learning.
And maybe something for you to think about. If your core temperature has to rise during exercise to create that error signal that drives heat loss, does that mean there's always a kind of trade-off between pushing for peak performance right now and maintaining perfect temperature balance? What could that imply for athletes in ultra-endurance events, people pushing those heat production limits for hours and hours on end? Something to mull over.